South Korea may have an ant problem. Although it's not these type of ants, but rather these.
코스피는 101%예요. 진짜.
There are more than 14 million retail investors in South Korea who are called ants. Individually, they don't have much power, but collectively, they have a greater influence in the market.
And these ants have been busy.
Up by more than 100% so far this year. Just an unbelievable rally.
It's really quite extraordinary what's happening in Korean stocks at the moment.
The Kospi index, which tracks Korea's public companies, climbed 200% over the last 12 months. Compare that to other major markets, like the S&P or even the Nasdaq, and Korea's performance blows them out of the water.
That means it has more than tripled over the past 12 months. Retail investors, they've been the main driver of the Kospi. We can see signs of being a little bit maniac and a lot of people borrowing money to invest in stocks.
And amid the mania is a mounting fear that a bubble will soon burst.
The AI bubble debate is absolutely raging right now.
South Korea is one of the biggest beneficiaries of the global AI trade because it has two of the world's largest memory chip makers.
Korean stocks are really maximizing being beneficiaries of the AI capex bubble. That's the amount of money that's pouring in around the world, but particularly in the US from the mega cap stocks into building AI data centers.
So, are South Korea's retail investors building towards the future, or will they get wiped out?
I don't have a strong insight of when it goes wrong. But when the AI bubble collapses, the pain in Korea is going to be extraordinary.
AI investment is in hyperdrive. 2025 saw the four biggest US tech companies, Amazon, Google, Meta, and Microsoft, spending $376 billion on capital expenditures. And the industry is on track to spend a whopping $725 billion in 2026. Data centers need memory chips, the specialized semiconductors that store and rapidly feed information to AI processors. The design and manufacture of these critical components is dominated by two Korean companies, Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix.
The scale of gains we're seeing are really quite extraordinary.
At points this year, Samsung has seen its stock rise 500%, while SK Hynix has surged more than 1,000%. In 2025, Taiwan's TSMC outperformed SK Hynix and Samsung, but this is expected to change with TSMC being overtaken by its rivals.
We're really seeing really incredible amounts of value produced. Korea is making real hard earnings.
If you go to the streets in a cafe or bars in South Korea these days, you can easily hear people talking about Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix. They easily talk about whether it's still not too late to buy the stock, whether one should buy more.
Korea's booming AI-fueled market has produced big winners, especially if you got in early.
Because I work in the tech industry and I worked in AI company since 2017, so I believe in that future. I'm sitting on the position of 1,300% of gain.
That's incredible.
Yeah, because I invested in the 5 years ago.
A lot of people say Kospi's market rally is driven by fundamental, but to a certain extent, we can see certain pockets of the market that are driven by sentiment, such as the fear of missing out. In South Korea, there's an expectation that at a certain age, you want to have a good job, you want to own a house, and then you want to start a family. Young people who feel like they're out of options to own a house are starting to invest in stocks so they can start to build wealth.
예, 여러분 안녕하십니까? 고품격 주식 방송 주식은 지금. 자, 오늘도 한번 힘차게 시작해 보도록 하겠습니다. 야.
지금은 누가 보더라도 불장이잖아요.
Chun Shuk-jae, known as Shuka, is a well-known social media personality or finfluencer. He says the ants are just trying to get ahead.
나도 이번에 성공해야 돼. 이번에 성공하지 못하면 야 나는 뒤처지는 거야. 이런 분위기가. 그러니까 이 대출을 받거나 레버리지를 하는 사람들이 굉장히 많고.
Investing in the stock market can be risky, especially if debt's part of the equation. Despite profiting from the market, this investor didn't want her face to be shown because she hadn't told her family about the scale of her investing or the leverage she'd taken on.
어떻게 보면 도박을 하고 있다라고 취급을 받을 수도 있을 것 같아서 또 아직 성공하지도 않았고 그래서 얼굴 공개를 망설이게 되었습니다. 한 150% 정도 수익을 보고 있습니다.
This investor has seen their portfolio's value rise to $655,000. A large part of her portfolio is made up of leveraged ETFs, investments designed to multiply daily returns, but they can also multiply losses.
These are ETFs that offer 2 times or 3 times the return of the market, which are clearly great when it goes up, but not so good when it collapses.
Hold that thought till after this.
This is an incredible comeback story.
Uncover more at Bloomberg.com/videos.
Cheering this bullishness on is Korea's president, Lee Jae-myung. He's encouraged the shift from investing in housing to financial markets. The former trader turned politician has enacted sweeping reforms, leveling the playing field for smaller shareholders and strengthening corporate accountability. But if the market falls, his popularity could fall with it.
There's definitely a risk of tying one's political success too deeply with the stock market performance. Because South Korea has so many retail investors, out of 51 million population, 14 million people are retail investors. The strong market performance definitely has a huge appeal to voters.
The bubble here is not in Korean stocks. What happens is a bubble in the US means that the real world beneficiaries are just making money hand over fist as long as the AI capex bubble lasts.
Which brings us back to AI spending. Any sign it's slowing down exposes South Korea's market to volatility that could wipe out investor wealth. That's because Samsung and SK Hynix make up more than 50% of the Kospi.
The Korean stock market trades like a penny stock or trades like an individual volatile stock because in many ways it is just 2 stocks.
If the AI transformation doesn't return the profit they were expected to, and if there's any hiccups in the capex spending or some kind of a slowdown in the US big tech spending, South Korea might be the first in the world to witness what kind of impact that's going to have on the market.
A recent study by Bain & Co. of nearly 1,000 global companies found AI cost savings broadly fell short of projections. A result the survey says should be making executives uncomfortable.
When this AI capex bubble bursts, the Korean stock market will collapse and then the economy in Korea will suffer a deep recession. The problem is that I'm not trying to call the top and I don't know when the top is.
The risk is becoming apparent. South Korea's financial watchdog now says it regrets the launch of leveraged ETFs. On March 4th this year, the Kospi plunged 12%, pulled down by concerns over the Middle East conflict. South Korea's ants, those hoping AI will help them build generational wealth, may be some of the most at risk.
We are finding some balance between the hope and doom market scenario as well. Now I'm looking for the China market as well.
We know that the AI bubble cannot inflate ad infinitum. And the problem is, you can't get ahead of that story. If the AI capex bubble continues for another year, Korean stocks will double or triple again. You can't really preempt the turn until you know exactly when the bubble will burst.